because I was working there, that wasn't something that the company provided. They didn't help with organising that. So I got in touch with one of the previous interns, and they just recommended a few websites.
To research the city or the accommodation, how the transport works.
I do think it's definitely a good option, and that'll give you so much more financial freedom. But if my room was and my house was where I had to live all the time, I think sharing a room is really hard because you lose that privacy. But it was literally just the place I went back for a bed.
I would advise the person to look for more than one place of accommodation that they like, in case they don't get the one that they anticipated that they would get.
So I'd spoken to him online, and we met up and ended up living together for the 2 months. So I definitely recommend, if possible, making points of contact before you go, because then it makes it a lot smoother once you're out there.
That's one thing. If you're in that situation where you will have a period of time before you can move into a certain place, or if you don't have anywhere lined up, it's temporary accommodation is usually handy.
And I lived quite a long way out, so it was difficult to make friends at the beginning, but I actually became really close friends with my 2 landladies that I lived with, who were in their 60s. And so it was different to Spain, because Spain was very studenty, but Italy was much more, I felt like I was part of Italian culture. So I would say don't limit yourself to where all the students are living, because actually I feel like my Italian benefited a lot more because of where I was living in Italy.
So in France, the accommodation was organised through the university, so it was a very simple procedure. Whereas in Spain, however, we had to organise our own accommodation, and we were advised to when we arrived. So it was a bit scary, especially for someone who likes planning, but there are always people there to help. So especially the ESN office, which is the Erasmus network. There are students there that will help you organise that accommodation with you. So there's no problem there. So I'd always seek advice, especially if you want someone to come with you to check over the contract with the accommodation. There's always help there if you need to.
I actually tried to go for a flat in the town, but because the landlords were a bit funny about people staying for only 2 months, I ended up going for the university accommodation, who were a bit more flexible on the time frame.
If you're going somewhere to study or work in a European city, before you go out there, look for Erasmus, because also those students will also offer housing and stuff like that.
I booked online before I arrived. It was very, very cheap, because southern Spain is cheap, but I would have preferred to have seen it first, because the kitchen was not very nice. In Italy, I viewed the property first. I stayed in the hostel for a few days and looked around and found a place to live, because Florence was a lot more expensive and I wanted to get the most of my money.
One of them was my age and he studied business. Another one was a PhD student who was a lot older than me and a lot wiser than me and a lot nicer than me. And in that sense, I was very lucky, because I was well looked after by both of them.